All right. Welcome back to Practify, the podcast where we go inside the minds of private practice owners who've successfully scaled their practice and are open to sharing the strategies and mindset behind their growth. Today's guest is someone who's built a thriving practice by going against the grain. Kristen Fustos is a pediatric dietitian and the founder of Happy Tummy Nutrition. She's become a go-to authority in kids' gut health, building her practice on signature frameworks that help families get consistent results without burning herself out. Her journey is a masterclass in the power of niching down, building scalable systems, and shifting from clinician to business owner. Kristen, welcome to the show.
Hi, well, thank you so much for having me today.
It's great to have you on. All right. Well, Kristen, I guess you've obviously now built this incredible niche practice in kid gut health, but I know that's probably not where things started. So I want to rewind a bit and go back to the early version of you before the systems, before being known as the gut health dietitian for kids. So, Kristen, I guess first things first, like, what did your practice look like in the very beginning?
Yeah, well, before I became a practice owner, I was a dietitian in a couple different settings. I feel like a lot of dietitians have. We've done, a lot of us have done clinical, we've done community, we've done, or we're trained in like food service management as well. So I've kind of hit all of those boxes and became like a pediatric dietitian. But where it started back in 2019, that's when I was credentialed as a registered dietitian. And I was with the WIC program, which stands for Women, Infants, and Children. And with that, it was really kind of like basic nutrition, kind of teaching the basics with breastfeeding. We were focused on pediatric growth, anemia, some of these just basic things. And it was more of like a community setting. And then from there, I transitioned to Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital, and I was working in the NICU, so very clinical setting, and there went into outpatient setting. And that was kind of like a very broad spectrum of pediatrics, anywhere from pediatric gut health to adolescents, obesity, type 2 diabetes, feeding challenges, some disordered eating. Like it was just kind of like a huge broad in that outpatient. While it was still pediatrics, but still within the pediatric realm, just a very broad spectrum. And with that, there was so many kids, so many families who, like, I noticed gut issues. Like we worked pretty close with the GI provider, and so many kids were coming in constipated, so much reflux, vomiting, food sensitivities, food allergies. And within this group, I was like, I really noticed that there was a gut health connection. And there's so much research and evidence coming out with the gut microbiome. And that's kind of where I put all my focus in. Like I noticed that's what I loved working on. I really love kind of getting to the root, starting on helping babies and older kids just really kind of not fix their gut, but work on their gut health and really get that optimal microbiome. And so that's where, I started connecting some of those dots where, this is something there. I haven't really seen any other like pediatric gut health dietitians out there, but there was such a need. So that's where I started looking into what it would take to start a private practice. Um, it was never my, like, when I was in college, I never thought I would become a private practice owner. Uh, I thought I was going to go to school, become a clinical dietitian, and that's what, that's I would have been set for life. Like I really did like my job at All Children's Hospital, and I thought I was going to be there for a very, very long time. But just seeing this gap and this need that these families were, needing to, talk to someone about nutrition. Their pediatricians weren't giving them that nutrition part, and no one was really connecting gut health, like the microbiome, to some of these concerns that were so common, like the eczema and the food sensitivities and really colicky babies and cow's milk protein allergies in babies. So that's what prompted me to start my virtual practice. At first, I knew that's what I would be doing was virtual. Didn't really have the upfront cost to like open a clinic anywhere, and just started seeing patients that way. I think I started marketing on Instagram and Facebook, uh, and then just with some people that I knew, a lot of my friends were having babies and I'm just kind of marketing in that sense to people that I know. And that's where I got my first few patients was from, I think it was Facebook. So that's kind of how it started. And then from there, it's just kind of taken off. I've done a lot of marketing on social media, and I'm now doing more marketing in like the local area, as it is still my goal to open a clinic. So really trying to hone in on the localness of pediatric gut health.
Did you ever experience any sort of fear when you were like, when you made that shift from like wanting to kind of help anyone and everyone to like specifically peds? Was there ever like what happens if I get a bit too specific? Or was it like just a straight shift where you were like completely confident and just happy to make that jump?
Yeah, I've been in pediatrics for a while because even before I did my dietetic internship, my first job, like a nutrition kind of job, was at the WIC program. I was a nutrition counselor. I wasn't a licensed dietitian yet, but it was just doing kind of basic nutrition counseling, and it was to families, kids, and babies up to the age of 5. So that's where I did a lot of that's where I learned a whole lot. And I think I would have been open to doing adults, but these pediatric opportunities just kept presenting to my plate or presenting on my plate. And there was an opportunity at All Children's Hospital, and like after I became a dietitian, and that's so then I just knew that it was going to be pediatrics. So I never really had the challenge of helping, both adults and kids, but I do feel like I said, within the pediatric world, there was still a lot of broadness there. Like feeding an infant at 6 months is different than a 16-year-old who's having feeding challenges. So even within that realm, it's there's a wide gap. And I have just since then I've really focused in on like the young kids. So yeah, it is a challenge because I mean, I still struggle with like, I want to be able to help everyone, want to be able to help those older kids too. And, if they're coming to me and it might not even be a gut health issue, it might just be, weight issue or, you know, there's certain things where most things I do refer out. But it's still like, I think just the, healthcare worker and me, like I want to be able to help everyone. So I'm learning. I'm learning of how to, to better serve patients, to be able to refer them to other dietitians who specialize in those areas.
And when you initially made that jump and actually got going with your virtual practice, I guess what did your financial picture look like? You don't have to get into the exact numbers, but like, was it running smoothly? Was it sustainable? Or was like there ever doubt if like when's this gonna change? Like what did that situation look like for you when you just got started with the virtual practice?
Yeah. There, at first I was doing it part-time. So I was still working at the clinic, and I was just seeing patients like a couple weekends a month and in the evenings. So it was fine. And what really helped me make that jump actually was I was contracted with a a platform that helps us see patients with insurance. something like, well, I was with Fay Nutrition, which is similar to like Berry Street or Nourish. There's a couple different ones out there where they help you with like the credentialing, to be able to see patients with insurance. So because I was contracted with them, I felt more comfortable to make that jump. Um, and I did. I mean, I kind of set a goal where at first I was like, if I can just see, 10 patients a week, um, or like this amount, if I was like, if I can make, believe it was, I don't even remember, but there, I was like, okay, I can see this many patients a week. That's pretty much what my salary is, what I was getting from the hospital. And so I was just kind of looking at it that way, and just gave myself those goals. And I mean, and at that time, I was kind of seeing everyone, adults, kids, um, just kind of taking in whoever I could to be able to meet that goal. So from there, I've really have niched down. But at the beginning of even starting my practice and being happy tummy nutrition, a pediatric gut health, like this is what I want to do. At first, I was kind of just taking everyone to meet those financial goals.
Would you recommend that other practitioners do the same? Because obviously, like, that also falls back to values and morals, where it's like,
Mhm.
yes, you do want to help anyone and everyone, but at the same time, like, you have like a longer term strategy and vision with where you wanted your niche or practice specifically to go down. So, like, I guess for a new practitioner that's like just getting started, would you suggest that they take on anyone and everyone? Or would you suggest they be like a bit more picky with who they take on?
I think it depends. If the practitioner knows what they want to do, then I would say be a little bit more picky. Like maybe I should have kind of just held off and really honed in on my pediatric gut health, um, because I knew that's what I wanted to do. But it was I was a new practice owner, so but however, if you don't know exactly what you want to do, like it does take some trial and error in your own practice to kind of figure out like what you love doing, like what brings that joy to you. What type of patients do you love working with? So, it might take a bit of trial and error. And, if like private practice is your goal and you uh, you know, for sure want to do that, then, maybe at first, yeah, just be a kind of like a broad spectrum dietitian or private practice owner, and then hone in on your niche based on what brings you most passion and joy and what you enjoy researching. Because, we're always learning as dietitians, and, you gotta enjoy learning new things because it's always changing. So that would be my recommendation. Um, but if you're going in there, knowing exactly what you want, then I recommend getting a kind of like a community of dietitians. There's Facebook groups out there, um, and just kind of have that referral community, because then you will feel more comfortable being able to refer that patient to someone else. So they're not, you don't feel as bad if you can't take them. So that's what I would suggest.
So I just want to loop back a little bit and just kind of paint the picture. So you're working at the hospital, you're doing the virtual practice part time. What kind of made you make that jump where it was like I want to shift my focus a bit more to the practice? Like, was there a specific moment that came by and you're like, okay, now's time? Or was it just like kind of always the plan that you'd eventually make the jump?
It was the plan that I would always make the jump, and it was actually part of my personal life as to why I wanted to make the jump, because I was getting married or I got married in 2024, September of 2024, and then we had this like beautiful, like 2 week long honeymoon planned, and I was, an employee at the hospital, and I was like, I'm not going to be able to take this time off. Like, I don't have that flexibility working at the hospital, like to take off, a week for my wedding and then a couple weeks for my honeymoon. Like it's just, not an option when you're in the hospital unless you're taking a leave of absence. So I really did kind of put my mind to it where I was like, I need to be on my own, being able to have this flexibility, being my own boss by this time. So that is why, probably looking back, that's probably why, or I know that's why I took that jump, but why I also was willing to kind of see everyone to hit my financial goals. So it was for personal reasons that I did do that, but also just of being a private practice owner, like, wanting to have that flexibility. Like you don't get that as an employee at hospitals or clinics or things like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I guess obviously now things are very different. You're now doing the practice at in a much more sustainable way where it's like you actually can rely on this and like this can be your main thing. So I guess if you had to look back and kind of go back in time, Kristen, is there anything that you would have done differently, or do you kind of think that the journey played out the way it was supposed to so that you can get to where you are today? Or is there anything majorly that you would have done differently or potentially have changed?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, yeah, I look back and like everything that I've done, within my career has led me to where I am today, and I'm so grateful for that. There's no, you know, I guess there's no opportunities that I wish I would have done differently. Working at WIC, I learned so much about pediatric and reading growth charts and percentiles and all different formulas and breastfeeding. And I think that kind of kept me in the mindset of like pediatrics and babies and starting nutrition and how that has an effect so early on. um so that led me to then getting a job at a children's hospital, going from the NICU to the outpatient. So no, I mean, I think everything happens for a reason. I, have learned from my mistakes, and I think that those mistakes is what led me to being the practice owner that I am today.
So I just want to shift gears quickly because, Kristen, obviously, once you narrowed your niche into kids' gut health, you started doing something that many practitioners struggle with, which is turning their expertise into systems. Like, you've now built frameworks like eczema kits and gut protocols that obviously creates consistent results for families while also giving you a business model that could actually scale without trading time for money. So I think very simply put, like what I just want to clarify is like, what is a system in private practice? Like, what is this crazy 6-letter word? Like, what is a system?
Yeah, I think a system is where there's all these components that have a function within the practice. So whether that's, your social media portion, social media system, your marketing, um, your frameworks that you provide to your patients, and action plans. So I think all of those have, kind of form a system. And um, did that does that answer the question?
Yeah, for sure. And how would you say simplifying your services has helped you deliver like better outcomes for patients?
Yeah, so I will be honest, I did start trying to do more of like a group practice. Like I was trying to form like a group program where I was, taking in kids who had eczema, who had reflux, who had constipation, from ages, let's say like 6 months to 5 years old. And so I was like, yeah, I'm going to build this like group program. Like I'm niched enough to be able to do that. Um, and that was hard, because I realized that even within that niched group program, uh, again, there were still so many different ways of feeding and ways of educating, my group meeting. It was hard to please everybody. Um, and so I have since taken away my group program and have really focused more on packages and bundles. And I feel like those families who are really dealing with severe issues, like, because I'll be honest, people find me because they've tried everything else. They've been to the GI doctor, they've been, to multiple specialists, allergists, dermatologists. They're not getting results. So they've kind of like tried everything, and they're finding me. So they are complicated cases, and those families, they really do just need that guidance, that one-on-one support. Um, and so I do find that the bundles and packages really do work better with this population. And I'm not trying to, fit a square into a circle of this group program. Because that is kind of what I felt. I was like, how can I please these people in this group program? And it just wasn't fitting. So I do feel that since then, building the flow that I have of I want families to book a call with me. That's kind of like the first step. Like, let's see where they are. What have they tried? And then we kind of direct them. Okay, we have this bundle. We can start with this bundle. This is what I think is going to best suit you. We do follow-ups, every X amount of weeks, just depending, usually we start off a little bit closer and then we expand it towards the end. Or I do offer some like gut testing in my practice too. So I'm like, I really think we need to do some gut testing, some gut microbiome testing. Here's my packages for that. And just the families are grateful for that. I offer, I do regular check-ins with families. We have like secure messaging. So I want them to be able to ask me questions in real time. But I do find that with that, there's, I've gotten way or much better results with this type of work than with trying to do a group program. So I guess it is repeatable, because I do feel like my structure is the same with my families, kind of how we do our initial assessment and our follow-ups, our check-ins, kind of what I want to, give them for that first couple of weeks to work on. It's similar. However, with pediatrics, there, some kids are so picky, they're not going to eat certain foods. So I can't put everyone on the same protocol, or they have different food sensitivities, different food allergies. So we really can't put these kids on the same protocol. They're all starting at, or they just have such different ways that they're eating.
How did packaging your expertise into bundles or packages change the way that patients obviously experience your care?
Yeah, I find it does help, because I don't want a family just to book that one session. Like, you can only get so much from one session. So I don't really like selling them like a la carte, like here's a follow-up. Because I know they're going to get better results if they're seeing me on a regular basis. If I can give them some things to work on, and then we do a follow-up and check in, see what worked, what didn't work. Okay, we have to make some tweaks to this plan. So I find that they have those sessions already kind of booked out, or we don't book them out, but if they're already kind of like, paid for, people do pay for them up front, that they're more willing to put in the work. They know they're going to be seeing me on a regular basis, and they're willing to kind of put that work in, and we do see better outcomes.
And on the note of that upfront payment, I just want to ask, like, so obviously it's beneficial to you because you're collecting it upfront, you're gaining their commitment, but then you touched on a very interesting point, which is like the ones who pay upfront generally get better results because they're more committed. Like they have some sort of financial commitment. So what are your thoughts on charging upfront?
Yeah, I mean, I find it works again. You know, if they're paying this amount up front, they are willing to put in the work. You know, if you pay, you're gonna pay attention. So they're gonna listen to me. They want the outcomes. I, let's see. Um, where was I going with that? They, okay, yeah. Um, yeah, so going back to the bundles and packages, they do have an expiration date. You know, my smaller sessions, I want to give them, you know, no more than like if it's 4 sessions, I want to do no more than 4 months. If it's 6 sessions, no more than 6 months. So, you know, I'm like, all right, we pay for this package up front. I'm like, give me 4 months. We're gonna make, you know, we're gonna have some changes. We're gonna see some results. So they're willing to, you know, to give me that time during that period. And you know, we just get better outcomes.
What challenges did you face as you started building like a more structured approach? Because obviously these bundles and packages probably came from trial and error, right? Like probably tried a few things out, um, and as you said, like kind of see what works and see what doesn't. So like, what were some of the challenges that you were faced with when you were kind of going through this process and figuring things out?
Yeah, like I would say, you know, kind of going back to like the group programs, like just trying to serve all these people, even within the pediatric gut health world. So, you know, for example, like I would have like a breastfeeding mom and her baby who had, you know, pretty bad eczema. You know, we wanted to do some gut testing and help with that. But then also I've had like a 4-year-old who is you know, in daycare and eating lunch at daycare. Uh, and it's just very different challenges while we're still working on their gut health. Like I still like to, you know, most of my patients, they do the gut testing. So I do like to see where their gut is at, kind of like to give me like a starting point. But it's going to be very different recommendations. So it was very challenging within the group program to do that. You know, even when it comes to, you know, providing like recipes and meal plans, that's hard because, you know, a 6-month-old eats very different than a 4-year-old. That 4-year-old, a lot of the kids I work with, like I said, they're very picky, so very particular with how they're eating. And it was it was just trying to fit a square into a circle. That is how I felt. I was not getting the results. You know, I had I built all these modules and I was like, here's what we need to do. But I don't think it didn't click with the families. Like it, you know, wasn't relating to them. Um, and that's where, you know, I kind of restructured, okay, like this group program is not what I want it to be, but I still like want to be able to serve you know, families who are struggling with pediatric gut health. And I'm still marketing to kids with eczema and to kids who have food allergies and food sensitivities and constipation. So um but it's just the the recommendations are often different, and that's where I find like the bundles and the packages do work much better.
So I guess what did scaling in your practice actually look like? Was it more patients, more revenue, more freedom, or potentially less freedom? Like what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so it is well, going from, because I was doing a lot of insurance base because I was contracted with Fay Nutrition. So I was seeing a lot of patients that I was like, okay, I have to see like, this many per week to meet my income goal. And I was like, okay, if I average like this amount per or like per visit, this is what I'm going to make. But honestly, it was so different each time. Like whatever the insurance companies paid, like that's what I got paid. And like that number was decreasing. And I was like, okay, this isn't working because I'm not going to be able to see, 50 patients a week in order to meet my income goal. So scaling really was, while I am doing still one-on-one, now I'm charging what I want within my bundles and packages. So I am able to see less, I don't have like such a high number of patients that I need to see each week to meet my income goal. Because I am charging more for my, private pay practice. And, families are willing to do that. They know with a private pay dietitian, like they're getting more. If you pay, you're going to pay attention to what I have to say. You're going to do the plans. I have that flexibility. I don't have to wait for the authorization from the insurance company. I don't have to, wait to get paid even, but like I do have that flexibility for myself where I am able to kind of create my own schedule and even going back to why I started private practice, giving myself that time off. Like I am able to do that in a much more comfortable way now.
All right, Kristen. So, what I want to do quickly is just switch things up with a quick game called This or That. It's obviously pretty straightforward. I'll give you two options, and you've got to pick one as fast as you can. Like, no overthinking, no explanations, just your true, excuse the pun, but gut reaction.
Yeah.
Does that sound good?
Yeah. It sounds good.
Perfect. So, first one, more patients coming in or higher revenue per patient?
Higher revenue per patient.
Taking every new inquiry or saying no to protect your niche?
Saying no to protect my niche.
Hiring before you feel ready or waiting until you're overwhelmed?
Ooh. I think I live in chaos. So I think once I get to a time of overwhelm, that's likely going to be when I hire out. I don't know if
Building
that's the
new,
right answer, but
yeah,
what I
perfect.
should do. But in me personally, like I'm like, okay, like I'm in over my head now. Now it's time to hire.
Building new offers or doubling down on one signature offer?
I think dialing down on one signature offer.
Spending more time on marketing or spending more time on delivery?
Spending more time on delivery.
Slowing down growth to keep control or growing faster but letting go of control?
Slowing down growth to still have control.
Posting content daily or running ads consistently?
I would say posting. It doesn't really necessarily go with what I'm saying, but me personally, I did grow from posting daily on Instagram or more, but I think now I'm at a point in my business where doing more like consistent ads and really targeting that population.
Investing in better systems or investing in another team member?
I would say investing in another team member.
Second last one. Charging slightly less to fill spots or charging more and accepting fewer patients?
Let's say for I would say charging, well, Ooh, I don't know.
I'm gonna repeat it. Charging
Okay.
charging slightly less to fill spots, or charging more and accepting fewer patients.
I'd say charging more and accepting fewer patients, just because those patients are going to get those results and I can really provide them with my undivided attention.
And then the final one, working fewer hours or making more money.
Working fewer hours.
There we go. So that's it. So I guess moving on from that game, Kristen, one of the biggest challenges for practitioners is that obviously you go to university, you finish your degree, you write your board exam. Like at this point, you're taught to be a great clinician, right? But you're
Mhm.
obviously not taught how to be a business owner or how to run your practice. Like those things are very different, right? So I want to
Mhm.
dig into the strategies and processes that you've built behind the scenes of Happy Tummy Nutrition, from getting attention on your offers to converting interest into patients to keeping families coming back. So I guess, Kristen, first things first, how do most families even come across Happy Tummy Nutrition today?
Yeah, so I am getting families from a variety of different methods. I still do get quite a few inquiries from Instagram. I've been getting quite a few referrals from local providers. So some other, feeding therapists in the area, speech language pathologists, pediatricians, dermatologists. Um, so that way. And then now Google. I have, people have been finding me on Google, which is amazing. Um, and like I said, kind of moving forward, I do want to hone in on the Google and referral providers. Um, and I still still want to post on Instagram just to still be there for my community. And honestly, like I look at it, it's just an education platform. Like I am, educating. I'm kind of keeping up with the current research and providing um, providing that space to learn. But I'm not trying to get all of my patients from Instagram because then they are, they're all over, and that's great, because I am virtual. However, moving forward, I do plan on opening a clinic in Tampa, Florida. So, still trying to focus on like the Google and local provider referrals.
And when you say Google, like, are you running ads there, or like, what are you specifically doing on Google to actually get people to see your name and put yourself out there?
Yeah, so that is one of the places where I've outsourced because for the first year and a half, almost 2 years, I did it myself. I made my website and found that that took a lot of my time, a lot of my effort, and did not find joy in it. So that was something that I did outsource, and I do have a marketing team, and they are the ones that are doing the SEO for me and being making sure that I am getting listed on Google. And they've also helped with like the functionality of my website and the aesthetic look of my website. So they've helped a ton, but they're also doing that SEO and just making sure that I am ranked on Google. So I couldn't tell you. That's one part of my business where I have delegated because I tried and it was not for me. So, when that time comes, find someone or find a team that is what they do, and they'll it's worth it.
Obviously, outsourcing can be pretty overwhelming. So, like, what piece of advice or what recommendation do you have for other practitioners who are kind of at that purgatory where they want to actually outsource it, but they're a bit hesitant because obviously there's like, I don't want to say so many scams out there, but there's a lot of people pretending to do what they can do rather than actually being able to achieve that in the past. So, what piece of advice do you have to any practitioner who's looking to outsource work to potentially freelancers, contractors, agencies, even?
Hmm. Hmm. I'd say, interview, like do your research, talk to a couple different companies, or if it's a, another solopreneur or an agency, like just talk to them. A lot of them were offering, well, at first I did post in a couple different like Facebook groups, saying like this is what I'm looking for, this is what I want. And so I've gotten, a lot of people who recommended different, some of them were companies, some of them are agencies, but just different businesses, or like they can take care of you. And so I just kind of started going through those and just started booking discovery calls. A lot of them were offering discovery calls, and kind of took my notes, figured out which one would be the right fit for me. So just kind of like how a patient is looking for a dietitian, or if you're looking for a provider for yourself, like that's kind of what I did. I interviewed a couple different companies and found one that fit my needs best. And then also I was able to get price comparisons too. So we could see, all right, well, that one's just kind of charging way over the top of like what some of these other ones are doing. So kind of took all of those resources and from there made a decision.
So I guess just looping back to actually using Google and using social media and referral networks and everything to get patients and to get attention. But I guess, and this is specifically aimed at social media, like there's one thing getting attention, so getting likes, views, engagement, comments, everything in your post. But then there's another thing where you actually convert that attention into actual bookings, so actual paying clients. So I guess how do you convert a prospect or a potential patient who has just found out more about who you are? They can kind of see what you're doing and the potential outcome that you can lead them to, but they haven't like booked in as of yet. Like, do you have any process that you follow or take out to convert that attention into actual commitments or actual bookings?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would say that has also been a big trial and error period. I was like the first year of my business, I was posting every day, and didn't really follow a strategy. I was like, I just got to grow, just got to get my name out there. Just got to, get myself known, get my name known. And it helped. Like it did build my community. But I think since then I've really honed in on the different types of content. You can't always do a sale pitch, a sale pitch, a sales pitch. You do have to kind of keep the audience warm by educating, giving tips, advices, like here's what's worked, like here's a success story, um, before, asking for something, asking for them to book. Because I did that. It did not work. It did not convert the right type of people. For example, I had this was last year. I had like a post or a reel go pretty viral. It has like 20 million views. And the call to action that I did on it was like comment call consult, and it like just sent them my link to a discovery call. And I was like, yeah, this is great. I was like, I saw someone else do this. They're just like putting, like directing them to book a discovery call right from a reel. And I was like, let me try it. Of course, that was like one of the posts that went like completely viral. And all of these people, like from other countries, that people that just worldwide, a lot, India, Australia, were booking calls, and not necessarily, they didn't know who I was. They didn't know what I was offering. They didn't even know I was a dietitian. They didn't know, it was something about eczema and gut health. And they were like, you can, like you can cure my eczema. And so it didn't work out. So that was definitely a learning experience. Um, and so I've really tried to hone my content on, here's how nutrition like plays a role in eczema. Here's how nutrition plays a role in your gut microbiome. Here's how, gut micro, here's how incorporating different fibers can help with this in your gut microbiome, and how, food allergies are related. So really just like educating and getting people to trust me, and that I am a practitioner. Um, and so a lot of my posts, I'm not doing consults from my reels anymore. So that's where I've developed a couple different lead magnets, such as my eczema kit. Was it my eczema relief starter kit? And it's pretty generic. It's like, kind of walks through the 3 steps that I use, which is like the framework that I do use with people who do convert. So it just kind of gives them little like teasers in there, and with a goal after they do get that lead magnet to book a call from there. It's like, okay, like we kind of see the steps that she takes, and she's already given us this information in this form of a guide. Like, what kind of information is she going to give if I'm a paying customer? So I really do just want to give more information, or give more like education. So that's what I've been doing now with that. Or that's kind of like the system that I've been doing now, either just educating, not even having a call to action, or if there is a call to action, it's going to be a lead magnet, which gives them a little bit more information about myself and kind of like the framework that I use in my practice, which is going to make them want more after they trust me a bit. I also, yeah, we'll end with that, because I forget what I was going to say. So,
And I guess you've obviously got quite a big following on social media, and that obviously takes a lot of consistency, right? So
mhm.
my next question is like, how do you structure your content? Do you kind of come up with a content plan and then shoot content for like that month, or do you just like wake up and do it every morning? Like, what does your content strategy look like in terms of production, and then also in terms of like publishing it? Like, how do you know how much to post, or like when to post what and so forth? So what does your content strategy look like?
Mhm. Yeah, so if I have something that I'm promoting, I will kind of plan that out. Um, I use Asana to plan for that, so I will kind of book, okay, I'm going to post every other day, and I'll kind of have a general idea and like the caption already written out. Um, so I'll do that. Like if there's like a new lead magnet, or if I'm doing a special, or if things are changing, or if I'm just trying to promote something, I will post. Like my typical is every other day if I am like in a promotion period. Outside of that, it's about once a week. I'm not like super strict on it, but I do like one to 2 times a week. And honestly, sometimes those are just uh what I'm thinking. Like if I read something new that I want to share, or if I have like, oh, like this tip I've been wanting to share this, like it'll kind of just be a last minute post. I don't do a whole lot of like talking to the camera or voiceovers. I do just a lot of like B-roll with text on the screen. I find like that works really well. Moms are very busy, and so I do want to kind of like catch their attention. um and I find the it's so crazy, because the reels that I put the least amount of effort in are the ones that perform very well. And then those ones that are planned out, and I do, if there is like some talking, or there's it's more like planned and structured, it's like, those ones are crickets. So yeah, I mean, that's what's worked for me. I'm not an expert on social media, on Instagram, especially in this day and age. And I remember what I was going to say earlier, in the question that you just asked me before, with so many like influencers out there, and people just posting on social media to sell. There's so much noise out there that it's hard. Like a lot of my posts now are focusing more on like I'm provider. Like I, did go to school. I'm not just an influencer trying to sell you something. Like I truly do want to help your child, help your family. And here's my why, here's my expertise. So it's hard. It's hard. And on social media, you really do have to build that trust because there are so many scams out there and there's so many people just trying to sell you, whatever's next, the next supplement, the next cure for whatever. So, really trying to separate myself as an expert in this field and as someone who is not trying to scam you. Like I really do believe in my packages and bundles and my framework that I use with my patients. Like I really do believe in that. And it is all, evidence-based, structured, and, it's from a dietitian perspective.
Kristen, do you ever ask your patients or the families that you've helped for referrals, like directly?
Like if they're, if they know like any friends or family members that they'd be willing to send my way,
Correct.
I have not. I haven't. And
Is
maybe
it
I
like,
should.
is it like the reason you haven't, is it because of like a value thing, like a morale thing? Or is it just like you haven't really had the need to ask for referrals?
I I guess I haven't had like or haven't seen the opportunity to present that to my families. I'm sure if it did come up, if they're like, oh, we're in this group, it's like play group that we go to, um, you know, maybe it'll come up in conversation, but that's not really like I feel like that's not within, yeah, not really like morally ethic to have this person be my marketer. I don't want my patients to feel like they have to go market for me, but if they're talking about me and mentioning like, oh, we've worked with this dietitian, she really helped us, then I'm for that. But I don't go out of my way to ask them to market or refer for me.
You obviously touched on a very interesting point, which was that the posts that you've put the least effort into often are the ones that go most viral, get the most engagement, or just do the best. So I guess what's a common mistake that you see practitioners making online and on social media when they're trying to attract new patients? Because if you ask me, like, or the average outsider person, and this is like a very normal initial thought to have, where it's like, look, like the more effort you put into a post, the more you craft it out and make sure it's got a nice hook and a call to action, like the higher likelihood the video has of going viral, right? And that's obviously not the
Mhm.
case. So once again, just to loop back to my question, what would you say is like a common mistake that you see practitioners making on social media that they happen to experience when trying to attract new patients?
Maybe it would be just posting to post. If their reel or carousel post doesn't really have a problem that it's solving or a good like an education piece, then it's not going to get the engagement. Like you do need that hook. You almost need to be a little controversial to get people like to stop people from scrolling. Um, you do have to kind of stand out with um, social media just because it is so saturated. People are just scrolling, doom scrolling. So you have to make them want to stop. So some kind of like some hook, you're calling them out and, you know, make, make them stop, make them want to read more, either state that problem right on the screen or, say like, I wish that more people knew this, or here's, point of view. Like those all do really well for my audience, because I think it just stops them scrolling. And I do find like I always try to have some kind of like bright color when I'm filming. A lot of times I'll wear like a green shirt, or blue or pink. Like I try to do like a bright color, and I do find that the like me cutting like either veggies or fruit, or doing some kind of food preparation in the kitchen, that stops people from scrolling, or will stop them and have them look at the post. I don't know why, but I've just found that does really well. And even if it's like a out of the ordinary type of fruit, like for example, I had one where I was cutting like a pink pineapple, and that one went pretty viral because of the pink pineapple. So just kind of having something out of the ordinary where that's going to have people stop. If it's just kind of bland colors, not really, not a strong hook on there, people are just going to keep scrolling. So I would say I do see a lot of that. And that those things that I mentioned, the bright colors, in the kitchen, those things have worked for me. I don't know if they work for everyone, but that has worked for me and my audience.
So, Kristen, something that we obviously talk a lot on this podcast about is that strategy alone isn't enough, right? Like scaling a practice often comes down to the mindset and identity shift that you have to make along the way. So, you obviously started as a dietitian focused on clinical work, but over time, you obviously stepped into the role of more of an entrepreneur and educator. So, I want to dive into the internal side of your journey, the beliefs, the confidence, the shifts in identity that actually allowed you to grow a business, not necessarily just a practice. So, first things first, like, what was the biggest mindset shift that you had to make in order to move from just being a clinician to a business owner?
I mean, from being a clinician, being an employee, to a business owner, being an entrepreneur is, I think, just putting myself and my practice first. I don't think I've done that in the past. And so making sure that I am prioritizing, my needs, my schedule, my freedom, in order for me to serve families better. And, not just a dietitian, waking up, going to see my patients and moving on. Like the patients that I see in my practice, like as their dietitian, but also as the owner of Happy Tummy Nutrition and upholding those standards, like I really do want to see these families transform. Like I want them to uh to have those skills to work on their gut, and to eat healthy and thrive, and just build that foundation. So it's not just another day at the clinic. Like I really am, getting into the lives with these families and really kind of guiding them and helping them. And I do want to see them, see better outcomes.
What would you say helped you get comfortable showing up online, even when it probably felt very uncomfortable at first? Like, as you said, like you're a practitioner, like you're not some crazy celebrity or influencer where like you want to put your face out there and every morning you're like super excited to go and post. So, looping back to my question, like, how do you become comfortable in the uncomfortable?
You just got to practice it. You just got to practice being uncomfortable. I grew up extremely shy, like so afraid of people, so afraid of talking, absolutely hated public speaking, and I still do. But I do, I just started doing it, kind of just overcoming like, and going to, back to like posting on social media. Like, I've done my doom scrolling. Like I see people on there who post the most outrageous, crazy things, and I'm like, you know, I I'm not going to bed thinking like, oh wow, did you see that crazy person on social media today? People see so many things on social media that they, it all gets blurred together. So that has helped me overcome my fear. I'm like, people aren't honing in on like me or anything. And I just started doing it, and I am more comfortable now doing that. And then with, public speaking and speaking to groups, like hate it. I've never really liked it, but if an opportunity presents itself to me of speaking, like I will do it, because even though I don't like it, I will do it, because the more I do it, I know the better I'm going to get at it. For example, I do some cooking classes, and I'm like, why did I commit to doing these like cooking classes? Um, but I did. And like, now that I'm doing them, like am becoming more comfortable, and it just, you get used to that feeling. And just like with anything, practice makes perfect.
Are there any habits or specific routines or rituals that have helped you stay consistent in showing up as the business owner?
Like habits, just kind of like in my personal life, or just like my kind of like my daily routine habits.
A bit of both. Like, I guess to clarify my question even further, like, what particular habits or routines do you make sure that you implement, like, on a daily basis to ensure that you can show up as an entrepreneur, business owner, a practice owner?
Yeah, for myself, I always make sure that I get in some kind of movement. Like I know for me that helps with my productivity for the day. So, waking up and doing a run, or, doing a gym workout. Like I know that really does kind of set my day right. So always kind of giving myself that time. I do block my schedule. I have, certain number of hours per day that I am seeing patients, and then do try to block, a couple hours each day for, charting, admin work, doing, continuing education, marketing. And that's a little bit more flexible. Like those I call like everything else that's not patient face to face like admin time. And that could be any of those that I just mentioned, like the marketing. So I do try to set, block time for that each day. So, it looks a little different each day, but, I'm making sure that my whole week isn't spent just seeing patients, because that would burn me out completely. So I do, set those times for myself, and also, for other things within the business. I do kind of flex my hours a bit. Like I will work some evenings, and I work a couple Saturdays a month. And that's just so I can take some other, some time during the week, during the weekday, to do some things for myself, if that's doctor's appointments or errands, or, house chores. Like, I don't want that, 9 to 5 type of life. Like I've done that for too long. So just kind of making my own schedule, and that way when I am seeing patients one on one, like I am there, I am fully present.
What advice would you give to a practitioner who's clinically confident but struggling to see themselves as an entrepreneur?
I would say that you really do just have to take that leap. You learn by doing, and you learn from mistakes, and just like with everything, you really just have to take that leap. And if you set your mind to it, the mind is such a strong component of business. If you set your mind to it, you're going to get it done.
Kristen, I'd love for you to share what your work looks like today, the different ways you support families through Happy Tummy Nutrition, and how any potential listeners can actually connect with you. So, what are the main offers that you currently run through Happy Tummy Nutrition?
Yeah, so my main offers, like I said, I do offer a couple different bundles. So 4 session bundle, 6 session bundle, and 8 session bundle. And those would be for families who maybe have they've already done some testing elsewhere, or if they're not interested in doing gut testing, they just kind of need that support. Um, and then I also my more popular ones are my gut testing packages. I do like gut microbiome testing. I use the company Tiny Health, and it's very specific for babies and kids, and even older kids too. But I really do find that families are searching for that. Especially those families that come to me where they've kind of tried everything. And I do offer like a gut test, like starter package where it's just the test with 2 sessions. And then a test, I have another one, a test with 4 sessions, a test with 6 sessions, a test with 8 sessions. So I find that those are more popular, most popular. And that way we can, families want that like tangible information, like, oh, like this is why, he's not able to tolerate so many foods, because his gut is so out of balance. And, kind of using that information to plan our protocol and to plan our action plan with that. So I'd say those are definitely my most popular. Well, the gut testing ones are my most popular ones.
Where can people learn more about what you do and what you have to offer and potentially connect with you directly?
Yeah, so my website is pretty up to date, and that's just happytummynutrition.com. I have my packages and bundles are actually listed on my site, so people can go read more about them there. And then I also have some information on the Tiny Health gut testing there, and I have more information about myself, a little bit more about my history and my like earlier career and my schooling. And I also have a blog too. So I do have some like blog articles on there that talk about some specific pediatric gut health conditions, and just some basic ones too, like school lunches and stuff. So website's pretty active and up to date. And then Instagram as well, at Happy Tummy Nutrition. I'm pretty active on there, answering messages. And so either other practitioners or families that can find me on there, or my website, happytummynutrition.com.
All right, there we go. And Kristen, before we wrap up, I've got one last quick game for you called Complete the Sentence. I'll start a sentence and you finish it with the first thing that comes to mind. We've got 4, all right?
Okay.
First one. The best piece of advice I ever received was?
Oh my gosh. I have no idea. Wait, I need a minute to think.
Go for it.
Best, and then you might have to ask it again. Best piece of
The
advice.
best piece of advice I ever received was?
To just do it. Just post. Just start the practice.
One thing I wish I knew earlier in my career is?
That you're not going to be able to help everyone.
The part of my work that lights me up the most is? In a good way, by the way.
Yes, seeing the kids, seeing the families, having someone reach out to me saying like that their kid ate this food for the first time and didn't have a breakout, or if they send me a picture of like their skin looking clear, or that they're having regular bowel, like I love those check-ins where they're kind of giving me their good updates.
And then finally, success to me means?
Success to me means having a thriving practice where I'm able to see a certain number of patients each week and helping them and just feeling fulfilled with that.
There we go. Kristen, that was amazing. I genuinely know that so many practitioners listening will see themselves in your journey and hopefully take away the mindset shifts and business lessons that you've shared today. So thank you for being so open and generous in pulling back the curtain on what it really takes to grow a thriving practice. For everyone listening, if you want to connect with Kristen or learn more about her work, I'll drop all the links in the show notes below. And as always, don't just listen, take action, put one of these insights into practice this week, and start building the business you actually want. And without further ado, we'll see you in the next episode.